Step 1, grab Swiffer refill and get a new one on there. So here's the large space. We're gonna break this into 2 sections when we dust. Always start where the wall meets the ceiling and go all the way around the room. We're breaking this into 2 sections, so I'm gonna do the kitchen first, but I'm getting, any cobwebs that I'm seeing up on the ceiling. I'm gonna go down even where the wall meets the wall, light fixtures. I'm just gonna go around the entire perimeter of that section that I'm doing and get the wall to ceiling dusting done first. And then when I come back, then I'm gonna hit everything else from, the ceiling all the way to the floor. So all of the horizontal surfaces, anywhere where dust is gonna collect. You can see that I didn't dust that entire door, I just dusted where dust would collect. So all of those little details of that bench, all decors and pictures, you see I'm hanging on to the decor so that it doesn't fall off the wall. I hung these up with the 3M sticker hang up things, so I know they're not going to fall off the wall, which is why I didn't hang on to all of them, but as a general rule, you should. See all these little detailed slots? I'm going in between each and every one of these. You just want to make sure you are literally as detailed as possible. Anywhere dust can accumulate, that's what we need to dust. A lot of times dusting is going to be the job that really takes a lot of time on each level, and that's okay. Even door tracks, I usually pull whatever's in the way out and I dust out the door tracks as long as behind anything. Pull everything out, go behind it. The main rule of thumb here is just every single horizontal surface needs to be thoroughly covered from top to bottom, ceiling to floor. And then because generally we wash all the cabinet facings, you're going to want to just dust the top ledge. Any decor that is above the cabinets can be skipped because there's, a risk of tipping things over, breaking things. Usually people have really breakable things on top, and they're usually coated. So if they want that stuff cleaned, that would be something that they would need to request, and then we would bring a step stool and physically get up there and hand wash everything, including the tops of the cabinets. And then here I just wanted to show a detailed up close version of just dusting shelves and things on them. I'm taking everything off, I'm going underneath them, I'm dusting all the items individually, and then setting them back up and tidying them as I go so that it's clear that I touched the shelf and everything on it, and everything not only is dusted thoroughly but straightened up really nicely. And then here above the fridge, some fridges you can see on top of, some can't, some are inside of a cupboard built in, but just do your best. I'm just we're pretty much where there's free space, and that's it. And then kind of tidying as I go, and I kept it real simple there. Okay, and here with light fixtures, you want to start from the ceiling and work your way down the light fixture just so you're being really methodical, not missing any parts, and just make sure you're hitting every area that could have dust settling. So really any horizontal surface on the light fixture. And then also note how I'm holding it. You can hold it to keep it steady. And then I'm going to start in the next section, just, going all along where the wall meets the ceiling. And I'm actually going to include the little hallway section here that I have too, just because why break it up into 3 sections when I can just do 2 large sections? So I do it this way, and I go around the entire top of an area first. I know some people just will do one wall at a time, and they'll do where the wall meets the ceiling just on one wall, and then they'll do everything on that wall. As long as you're being thorough, I don't care which one of these ways that you pick, just pick a way and then stick to it so that it becomes muscle memory to you. And then, you're going to become more efficient, more detailed a lot quicker. After you do where the wall meets the ceiling, please remember to lower the Swiffer back down to the shortest setting, because otherwise you're going to lose control if you leave it long, and you're more likely to break things. I feel this is often one of the hardest things for people to grasp and get into the habit of doing when they start dusting. For anything taxidermy with the fur, please just make sure you're going with the grain. If you're going against the grain trying to dust, it's really going to screw the fur up. And it's not really going to remove the dust at all. And see on here, I'm also getting everything from the light switches, the tops of those, to the vents. Everything collects dust. And then here's another shelf, you know, with items and decor on it. And I'm making sure that I pick up every single piece. I'm gonna dust on top of the shelf, and then I'm gonna dust the actual piece. Here's a little bit more in depth inside a piece. This is a glass piece, and of course inside is going to collect dust too, so really just do the best you can. I'm picking it up. I'm kind of just showing you how detailed I really get with things, to make sure that the dust is fully removed as much as possible. And then with a piece that is as big as that pitcher set with bowl, I'm not going to expect you to pick that up and move it. I just go around it as best I can. I dust the actual item. I may lift up the little doily that it's sitting on and go underneath the edges, kind of trying to dust off the doily part, but by no means do you pick up a super heavy item like that. You just do your best, and then you would still go around and finish the rest of the shelf. And I also see how I'm going down. I'm getting everything from top to bottom, so I'm making sure that even those bottom ledges, the grates on the fireplace, all of that is dusted thoroughly. Okay, and then continuing with baseboards, the tops of anything that's on the wall, and then here again I'm holding on to the decor with one hand and dusting with the other. If you want to get actual, you know, good pressure on the things that you're dusting to remove all the dust, you have to make sure that you're securing it to the wall properly. And here's another vent. I'm just doing that really thoroughly. Vents get so gross. Top of light fixtures, doorways. See how I'm going inside that doorway as well, even though the door is closed, because that's a super sore spot for cobwebs right there that generally people don't notice, but if you really look close, I mean, you can see them in the corners all the time. So we're making sure that we're getting all of the frames of the doors, tops of the cabinets, even the little handles for the cabinets. Just super thorough. Any horizontal surface, no matter how big or small it is. And here's a close-up to just show you, I don't dust the entire cabinet facing or the entire door panel, just where dust is gonna settle. Just those small horizontal surfaces where the dust is gonna build up. And then as far as mirrors go, I actually go ahead and I dust the actual mirror part itself, because those can get quite a bit of dust buildup, and to be honest, it can make the glass cleaning step a lot more difficult. So this is just a way to help set yourself up for efficiency. All right, here's another shelf situation. If you're not tall enough to get this top shelf and get it done thoroughly and get underneath all the items, please grab a step stool. I don't want to risk you, A, not being thorough enough, or B, you know, knocking something off because your line of sight isn't there because you're not tall enough to see on top of the shelf. And then I'm just going, you know, from top to bottom. So I just make sure I do it this way so that it's just you're using one solid method top to bottom all the time, and it's really ensuring that muscle memory and your quality is gonna stay great. But you see I'm still lifting up all the items, I'm still dusting them individually, and then when I set them back on the shelf, I'm setting them up really nice and tidy, just so everything looks really professional. With books, I don't expect you to take the books off. Just do what I did and go as close to that as you can, and then you can try and dust the tops of the books, but just do your best there. With valuables, you know, one of a kinds, the people's kids' projects that they make, super valuable, breakable things, just be as careful as possible. You know, we're only human, but obviously these items that I'm dusting here are one of a kinds because my kids made them. So I'm gonna just be as thorough as I possibly can, but as careful as I can. Take your time, please. And then my point here of showing shelves that are completely empty is to use a sweeping action when you're dusting and not a circular action. If you do circular, you're probably just gonna push dust around more or less. When you're sweeping, you're like sweeping it off. Also, don't forget those small spaces in between shelves and by walls and the little panels down there on the bottoms of the shelves. Those parts can be easily missed, but they stick out like a sore thumb if we do miss them. With curtains, just do what I'm doing here. I mean, I actually do the top of the curtain too, plus the rod, and then I still go around the whole outside of the frame for the windows because cobwebs are notorious in those places. And then I also dust out the window tracks too. All right, and here's my second bookshelf. So again, I'm starting from the top and working my way down the shelf, making sure that I'm picking up items, dusting underneath them, dusting them individually, and then when I set them back up, I'm just making sure that they're nice and tidy and in a professional arrangement. All right, and then again around the door frames, I get the locks, the door handle, all of that, and then I don't expect you to move the stroller or things like that all the way out, the shoe shelf, but just go around and go behind things as well as you possibly can. For decor that's like a wood texture, obviously you can't Swiffer that because the Swiffer is going to stick to it, so just do anything on the piece that you actually can dust, and that will be good enough. Even Kleenex boxes, the tops of those, remember to dust those, please. Every time you pull out a Kleenex, all them white fluffies go everywhere and the dust settles on the tops of those just as well as any other item. Okie dokie. Now with fans, I always start with the edges of the blades, including that metal part where it attaches to the center of the fan. Those get so dusty and it's super easy to miss those if you're not looking for them. You know, during first time cleans, sometimes just vacuuming the fans first is necessary, but if you're just going along doing your regular maintenance cleaning, this is the order in which you would want to do that. To adjust the angle of the Swiffer to get the top and bottom of the fan blades, just push in and tilt. And then you're going to do the undersides of the fan blades or the tops first. It really doesn't matter, the undersides or tops, but just make sure that you're getting them all thoroughly. And you're going to click and tilt again. Okay, and then you're going to do the tops. So either way, if you want to do the bottoms first, tops first, doesn't matter. Okay, then I'm going to do what's in the center of the room. So in this case, it's the table and chairs. I'm literally going to go as detailed, hey bunny, as doing in between all the rungs of the chairs. Literally every horizontal surface that will have dust settling on it. Now granted, if you've got a table and chairs that have fingerprints all over them, you're going to have to fully wash down every single chair. Don't bother dusting them because, you know, you're just making more work for yourself. So if you're going to wash them, don't worry about dusting them. If you don't need to dust them, or sorry, if you don't need to wash them, then just dust them. I'm even going under the table here. So, you know, all of this detailed work, I'm going in between all of these as well because they all collect dust. Clients are going to see pretty much every single inch of their house, especially after cleaners are there. They're more aware of paying attention to the details. So just making sure that we're really looking for every horizontal surface because sometimes you can't see it all from eye level. For high chairs, you're going to want to Swiffer these off for a couple of reasons. One, there's just so many crumbs and you want to get those to the floor when you're in the dusting stage so that you can just vacuum it up and be done with it. If you wait until you're at the kitchen washing stage, then sometimes a vacuum has already come through that area and then you're putting more crumbs on the floor and you're just making more work for yourself. All right, and then finally I do the tabletop. So I'm going to Swiffer this off too because if there's crumbs on it, I want to get those to the floor before the vacuum stage hits so that I'm just making one swift movement with the vacuum and I'm not having to go back. Because this is my house, I didn't straighten up this crap on the tabletop, but generally you're going to want to wash the table and then straighten it up. Once I'm done with one level of the house, I always do the stairwell and I dust it all the way down and then I leave the Swiffer at the bottom of the stairs when I'm done because then it is ready to go when we get to the basement level and somebody can just grab it and run with it. In this particular area, we do have a baby gate, so for any clients that have baby gates, please just make sure that you're dusting all the areas that you see here that I'm dusting because, man, they get a lot of traffic in these areas and these things can get nasty. I also look at these to make sure they're clean. If they're not, I make a note to wash them when I do the kitchen. Right, now here's a bedroom. Again, I start where you go into the room and I start where the ceiling meets the wall. You'll see here, I'm going to pause it. I kind of flutter the Swiffer against the ceiling because you don't want it to stick to the ceiling, but this is getting all them cobwebs that are stuck up there. And then you continue around the perimeter of the room. Until you get back to the place where you started, okay? And then I start with the door. I want to make sure the hinges, the frame, all of that is really thoroughly done. Cobwebs love door frames. Dust loves door frames. And then I'm just going to go around just like I would with any other room. And I'm going to dust every single horizontal surface that I can see. I know a lot of people have, well, furniture in general, but baby furniture. So when I'm doing a changing table, I really make sure that I'm thoroughly dusting it. And I kind of make a note for any like rings or anything that maybe needs to be hand washed because you never know the messes you're going to run into with a changing table, right? I'll take all of these items out and make sure that I'm just really dusting thoroughly underneath everything. You know, clients are going to pick up their products, use them, and if we don't do a thorough enough a job and we're not lifting things up, they're going to see the ring of dust when they lift up the product. That is cause for complaint, and they will literally send me a picture. So I just make sure everything from even the light bulb that I just dusted to behind everything, right now I'm flicking out like a bunch of debris that I see. So I'm just making sure, honestly, I'm literally as thorough as I can possibly be. And then just like with the bookcases or anything, top to bottom. So I got the top of the changing table first, and then now I'm working my way down it. So the handles, the panels, that bottom little ledge part, and even in between where the wall sits in there, gosh, cobwebs are crazy. And then again with the pictures, just these two areas where dust will settle, not the whole thing. All right, and then I just continue around the entire room, getting everything from the decor, curtain rods, all the way down to the baseboards. Just making sure I'm super, super thorough. With this chair, it's got a lot of rungs and a lot of places that you wouldn't necessarily notice have dust on them. So I'm making sure I'm really thorough with that chair. And then also I pick up as I go. So I'm straightening the stuffed animals, I'm tidying things up, etc. And again, I just pick up as I go. I'm noticing toys that need to go back in Jimmy's toy box and stuffed animals, etc. So I just kind of like pick up as I go so I don't have to end up going back to a certain area of the room multiple times. I would honestly say too, dusting is one of the hardest tasks because there's so much to dust. So it really does help if you're just constantly looking up and then looking down to make sure you didn't miss anything, especially maybe when you're done with a room. Just kind of look back and give it a once over, and just glance at it and make sure, hey, did I get this? Did I miss the ceiling fan? Did I do this? Did I do that? It really helps. And I still find myself doing that. Nobody's perfect. So we just got to do the best we can. And there's hundreds of items that you're touching in one house. So it's, you're human. Do the best you can, girl, but check it. Double check your work. Totally. Okay, now moving on. I just am maybe just doing random things at this point because I thought it would be a good example, but here's another thing, my medicine cabinet in one of my bathrooms, top to bottom. So I lifted up the toilet paper, I went over the whole top shelf. Now I'm moving every single item and going underneath it, and I'm tidying and straightening these items. You're facing the labels really nicely, etc. as you go. Okay, now with blinds, this is where people really can get held up on time. So do you see how I'm just kind of working it in a circular fashion and I'm taking each section at a time? Here's a nice close-up. I'm using the Swiffer to lift up each blind itself so I make sure I get the whole thing and not just, oh, look at me go, girl. Okay, this is just like trucking along. Once you get a really good groove with dusting blinds, see how I'm using my hand to even lift up each blind so I can get in there. Once you have a really good system with yourself, you can really speed through blinds and still do them very thoroughly. So it's really just learning these techniques and then slowly picking up speed on them. That is what is going to be most efficient for blinds. And see here, it gets stuck. So this can happen, and it happens often. Just know that it happens to the best of us, girl, okay? You just keep going. And then here we go with another close-up on like a wider section. You can use your other hand to hold up each blind to make sure you're thoroughly getting everything.